Hello all. Well, at this very moment, Russia just had a plane, a troop carrier plane, shot down by apparently Syria, and Russia's blaming Israel, and we're not even going to go there. That's not what we're talking about today. What I'm talking about is severe climate change, which is upon us now. We're just at the beginning of it. When humans started out, we had a CO2 count of in the 200, 280, 290 range. Now we're at 405 and rising quickly. Let's go over to the board and let's look at some of the details of what's happening with climate change these days. So what I wanted to talk about was how unprepared a lot of the world is for what's coming in climate change. We had a good example of that here in the U.S. in the state of North and South Carolina, where there are several nuclear power plants all up and down the coast. So this category storm that came in, this hurricane, was by the time it touched shore, it was only a category 1. That's it, just a category 1. And look at the tremendous amount of damage that was done. The flooding, we had over between 36 and 25 deaths in North Carolina alone just at the time of this video. Apparently there was 40 inches or less of rain totals. That's a lot of rain, but it's not as much as we've seen elsewhere. Over 10,000 people had to be rescued. Why? You'd think they would have heeded the evacuation notices. I don't think people are that smart. So over 20% of all the North Carolina state's gas stations were out of fuel. 20%. On a category 1, there were only 2 tornadoes that touched down. So a category 1 does all this damage, and we're looking at a category 6 typhoons and hurricanes coming soon to a country near you. Not at all prepared. So it's obvious what the climate change is being caused by, and that's the amount of CO2 that humans are putting in the air. A new study has shown that the Paris climate talks and ideas aren't good enough, not even close. Because in the study, it turns out that Paris climate was never studied the permafrost melt, which then would release all of the methane, which is a powerful greenhouse gas. 7 times what CO2 is, just shorter lived, but then it turns partially into CO2. So for some reason they decided to ignore the permafrost melt in the North and South poles. So just the permafrost melting alone will cause a 2-degree increase in temperature rise on top of the 1.5 degrees already predicted. So what is the CO2 count at this time? September 16, 2018, it was 405.18. September 16, 2017, it was 403.58 parts per million. The thing that makes this so incredible is the amount of damage that was done with just a category 1 here in the U.S. We're just not living in the proper areas that will absorb this much rain. People are living in the flood zones. These are very old flood zones, but they're still flood zones. If you're living in a low flood-prone area, you should think about that, because in the future, we're going to see bigger hurricanes, longer, much more rain, much more wind, but pretty much everybody on this channel already knows that. That's a given. We're smart enough on here to understand that. You have to ask the state of North Carolina, what was it thinking? 3,000 waste ponds throughout the state. Toxic ponds of various types, of coal ash and of hog farms and other poultry like chicken. All this feces was in 3,000 lagoons, as they're being called. Several of them overflowed. An ash pond that we know of has breached and flowed all over the land and in the nearby rivers. Why would North Carolina agree to hog farm lagoons and chicken lagoons and ash and coal ash ponds and nuclear waste dumps? What do you people think you are, a garbage can? I appreciate all the last comments on the last videos. They're excellent. And the ups and the downs and the new subscribers. Until next time.